The story will be told from the perspective of the main female character.
My mom kept slicing the meat and didn't even stop for a second when she told me, "Your sister and her kids will always be the most important. You are always at the end of the line." My dad just moved his head up and down like he was agreeing with a weather report instead of a life sentence. I didn't fight them. I just said, "It is helpful to know that." That was the moment I stopped waiting for them to make room for me at their table. I pulled my cash back, my time back, and my energy back. I decided to have my own life and a different future. Just when the quiet between us finally felt like it was supposed to, a huge family problem hit them harder than any of us thought it would. They showed up at my front door together, and they thought I would just open it for them. But I grew up in a house where the walls had a hidden system of importance. You could notice it in the way the sound of footsteps changed depending on who was walking through the hall. Conversations got louder when certain people entered, but the talking got thin when I walked in. Nobody said it out loud back then. They didn't have to. The ranking lived in the small details. When my sister turned 17, the whole front yard was glowing. My parents parked a brand new car under the street lamp, and the paint was catching every bit of light. They stood next to it with a camera ready. I watched from the window on the second floor as they gave her the keys. My mom sounded very proud when she spoke. "Your future is something we want to put money into," she said. Half a year later, it was my 17th birthday. The kitchen light was making a buzzing noise over a small cake. There were no candles, no gift waiting outside, and my dad just pushed a basic card across the counter. "We are proud of you," it said in printed text. I forced a smile anyway. I knew how the script worked. My sister got the big lights, and I got a quick motion of the head. School followed the same rules. My sister got checks for her classes, her books, and her place to live near the school. I had to listen to a lecture about being a responsible adult and how good it feels to pay for things yourself. "You are very independent," my mom told me, acting like it was a bad choice I had made. "You do just fine on your own." So that is what I did. I put items on store shelves very early in the morning and did computer work for clients at night. I saved every dollar I could for a junior college. I remember looking at the fridge in the store break room during my last shift before the fall started. Someone put a photo of their family vacation there. It showed beaches and people with their arms around each other. It made me realize that my sister had many books full of those types of memories. I did not have one single family picture from after I was 14, where I wasn't just standing on the very far edge of the group. The day I finished my 2-year degree came and went. My parents were not in town because they went to my sister's baby shower that weekend. I walked across the stage by myself in a room full of people I did not know. After it was over, I called them. My mom picked up while she was running errands. "That is great, honey," she told me. But then she said my sister was having early pains and they were helping her get a bag ready for the hospital. She said, "I will call you back later." She never did. When I moved to a state university with some scholarship money, they told me it was a nice little success. But the wedding for my sister was the biggest event of the decade. They walked through the party room like they were the ones who built the whole building. I stood by the drinks while my relatives told me I was so lucky to have a sister who had such a perfect life. They acted like her success made me look better. It didn't. Not at all. After I finished my architecture degree, after all the late nights of working and choosing to survive instead of sleep more times than I could ever count, I waited to see if someone would notice. My mom said, "Good job," while she was pouring some juice for the toddler. My dad just asked if I had any work lined up yet, while my brother-in-law was talking loudly about his house loan. Nobody asked how I did it all by myself. Nobody asked what my next plan was. By that time, I had learned to stop waiting for them to make a spot for me. I built my own space, starting small with a few investments, a very tight budget, and a quiet apartment with soft morning light. My name was not on the wall with the family photos, but it was finally on my own lease and my own future. Looking back, I can see the pattern very clearly. Every party, every problem, every season, my sister was in the center, and I was just circling around her. Somewhere between the car keys I never got and the cake I ate by myself, I learned my place in this family. A message came late on a Wednesday. It was a short line from my mom that said, "Family meeting Sunday, important." There was no explanation and no question about whether I was free. It felt like a doctor's appointment, not an invitation. When I walked into the living room that weekend, the air felt very tight with panic. There were papers spread all over the coffee table. I saw late payment notices and bank statements with yellow highlights on them. My sister was sitting there with her hands squeezed together. Her husband would not look me in the eye. My parents had moved their chairs forward like they were setting up a business meeting. My mom did not waste any time. She said, "There is a big problem. Your sister and her husband are having a lot of money trouble." Trouble was not a strong enough word. The house payments were months late. The private school costs for the kids had not been paid. There was a legal problem. My mom moved past that part very fast. That left my brother-in-law unable to work for a while. Every single number on the pages showed that everything was about to fall apart. My dad let out a big breath and tapped the pile of bills. He said, "We did the math. Your mom and I can pay some of this, but we can't pay it all. Your sister needs help right now." I waited. I did not say anything, and I did not move. I wanted to see how long it would take for them to ask. It didn't take long at all. My mom leaned toward me. She said, "We expect you to pay for the rest of it. You are single. You have a steady job and you don't have the same costs as they do. It just makes sense." There it was again, the simple truth. My sister comes first and I come last. Nobody asked if I had the money to spare. Nobody asked if I had my own problems to deal with. Nobody asked anything. They just thought I would do it. My dad pushed a list across the table toward me. He said, "This is what we need you to pay for immediately." It showed the late house payments, the school costs, and the money for a lawyer. Everything was highlighted in yellow. It was expected of me. My sister whispered, "We really need you, Alina." She acted like her needing things was money that I owed her. The room felt strange to me then, with the clock ticking and the sound of the fridge. The weight of all those years was hitting the same old bruise. I didn't argue with them. I didn't try to explain my side. I just looked at the numbers and then I looked at them and I let the room stay quiet. They thought I was going to pay. I only said, "I will need 48 hours. The drive back to my place was very quiet. I did not turn on the radio or any podcasts. I just listened to the sound of my old car and the words my mom had said earlier. "You are always last," she had told me. She said it like it was nothing, just a random comment at a dinner table. And all those words lived inside the walls of our house and in every choice they ever made. That truth was finally out in the open. Now they wanted me to act like it wasn't true because they needed something from me. I parked my car, locked my door, and stood in the quiet of my apartment. It was clean and simple. It was a place I built with my own work, my own cash, and my own choices. For a long time, I carried what they expected of me without complaining because fighting back seemed like a waste of time. But this silence felt different now. It felt clear. I opened my laptop. First, I looked at my accounts, my savings, and my investment portfolios. I knew the numbers already because I had memorized them. I spent years watching my spending and putting money into long-term funds automatically. I lived my life like someone who knew the world would eventually forget about her. That discipline had built a foundation that nobody in my family even knew I had. My fingers moved across the keys. I started to separate everything. I made new folders and new labels, personal, private, and secure. Then I looked at my bank statements from months and years ago. I moved them into a new folder on my computer screen. I named it Independent. That felt like the right word. On the other side of the room, Maya sat down with a bag of food. She didn't say anything or ask questions. She just watched me like she always did, without assuming anything. When she finally walked over, she put her hand on the back of my chair. "You are not choosing against them," she said. "You are choosing for yourself." I didn't say anything back, but her words made me feel stronger. I opened a spreadsheet next. I made columns and formulas. I wrote down exactly what they asked me for: the house payments, the school costs, the lawyer fees, and the extra monthly money. Numbers do not lie. These numbers were not just a request. They were a plan to change my whole life to save someone else's. For a long time, they called this love or family duty. But I had been paying the full price for a seat. I was never allowed to sit in. The cursor on the screen was blinking. I added another section for the terms. If I helped them, and I wasn't sure yet if I would, it would not be the way they thought. It wouldn't be a gift or a sacrifice. I wouldn't let the old cycle continue where my pain was the price of being in the family. I wrote out the plan slowly. It was a loan with interest and a 6-year repayment schedule. They would have to go to financial counseling and family therapy. I wanted a written statement where they admitted to the favoritism I dealt with for 32 years. I wanted a new system for any future requests. Everything had to be in writing with clear limits and no guilt. Each rule was clean and professional. It wasn't about being mean. It was about being fair. I printed the paper and put it away. Then I started on the next part, my boundaries. I went through my banking apps and stopped every automatic payment that was linked to my family. I stopped the holiday money, the extra cash for my sister's kids, and a streaming service my parents used but never paid me back for. These were small things, but they were symbols. They were the little leaks I had allowed for years. Delete, delete, delete. Every time the screen said confirmed, I felt like a weight was being taken off my chest. I went to my email and wrote a short message, saving it as a draft. If they tried to push me, I would send it. It said, "I will not take responsibility for choices that I did not make." My apartment was quiet, except for the heater turning on. Maya was on the couch now with her legs tucked under her. She was watching me but not interrupting. "You have been holding your breath your whole life," she said softly. "Tonight is the first time I have seen you actually breathe out." I think she was right. My shoulders felt lower and my jaw wasn't tight anymore. I went back to the table, put the printed papers in a neat pile, and tucked them into a plain folder. No big labels, just order. I thought about what would happen tomorrow. My parents would lean forward, my sister would rub her hands together, and her husband would make up excuses. They all thought my 48 hours were spent trying to find a way to give them everything. They had no idea that this silence was me getting ready. I closed the folder. I wasn't even mad anymore. You have to have hope to be angry. You have to hope that someone will see you or choose you. I didn't hope for that now. I just wanted the truth and a life that was finally mine. Maya asked quietly, "What happens tomorrow?" I put the folder in my bag. "I tell them that I don't fix what they break anymore." They were already sitting in the same spots when I walked in. It was the same living room and the same chairs pulled forward. The pile of bills was still on the table like an altar they had built for their emergency. But this time, I felt different. I wasn't carrying any guilt. I was just carrying my folder. Maya walked in with me, staying quiet and steady. She sat down near the window. She wasn't there to fight. She was just there to see what happened. My mom squeezed her hands together. "Good, you are here. Now we can get all of this fixed." My dad let out a breath like he was relieved. "We knew you would help us out, Alina." My sister gave me a small, shaky smile. "We really appreciate this." They were already thanking me for a choice I hadn't even made yet. I sat down and put my folder on the table. I opened the cover. Inside were my bank statements, my investment records, my retirement accounts, and my stock agreements. Everything was organized perfectly. The mood in the room changed instantly. My mom leaned in and her eyes got small. "What is all this?" I pushed one page toward her. "Context," I said. My dad grabbed another page and looked at the numbers. The sound of the paper moving was the only noise in the room. He stopped moving halfway through. It wasn't just about the money I had. It was the sudden realization that they knew absolutely nothing about my life. Every idea they had about who I was fell apart right there. My mom's voice sounded very thin. "Why didn't you ever tell us you were doing this well?" "You never asked," I told her. The silence that followed was heavy. I pulled out the next paper, which was the loan contract. My brother-in-law leaned in, looking confused. "Is this a legal contract?" I nodded. "If you want my money, it won't be a blind sacrifice. There will be a structure." My mom stepped back a bit. "Structure for family. For adults," I corrected her. My dad read the page out loud. "A 6-year repayment plan, interest, monthly payments, and financial counseling." His voice sounded like it was breaking. "It is standard," I said. "This is how I help you learn how to not need me again." My sister stared at me with wide, hurt eyes. "You are making us sign a document. We are your family." "You made me responsible for the choices you made," I said calmly. "This paper makes sure that doesn't happen again." Her husband got angry. "Does this feel fair to you?" I looked right at him. "It feels very fair." He stopped talking. I kept going. "There is more." I looked at my parents. "You will go to therapy. It's not to blame anyone, but to understand the system we have lived in." My mom straightened her back. "We are not a dysfunctional family." "You told me I was always last," I reminded her quietly. "That was dysfunction talking." She looked away. I added, "And there will be a public acknowledgement. At the next family party, you will talk about the favoritism, the lack of balance, and how you expected everything from me." My dad shook his head. "This is embarrassing." "It is just honest," I said. "It only feels embarrassing when the truth is too heavy to carry." The room felt like it was getting smaller. Finally, I pushed the last page over. "This is what you asked for. The house payments, the school, the lawyer. These are your numbers. This is what your choices cost." The terms were right there in front of them. My mom whispered, "You really won't help us unless we sign this." I looked her in the eyes. "I told you good to know back at Thanksgiving, and I meant it. Once I figured out my place in this family, I stopped trying to fit into the spot you gave me. If I am always last here, then I have to be first in my own life." Nobody said a word. I reached into my folder one last time and put a pen on top of the contract. It rolled a little and then stopped. "You have 48 hours, I said. "That is the same amount of time you gave me." My dad swallowed hard. "And what if we say no?" I stood up and grabbed my bag. Maya stood up too. "Then you handle your own emergencies," I said. "Just like I had to learn to handle mine." I walked to the door, and the room behind me stayed frozen. 8 months passed before I went back to that house. It wasn't for a crisis or a demand. It was for our last scheduled family therapy session. The changes didn't happen in one night, but they did happen. My sister and her husband had signed the papers. Every loan payment showed up on the exact same day every month. They didn't make excuses. The counseling changed how they lived. They spent less money and made better choices. They stopped acting like their needs were the center of the world. My parents changed too, even though it was slow. In therapy, Dr. Holloway helped them use words they had avoided for years, words like patterns, imbalance, and truth. My mom cried the first time she admitted, "We didn't see you." My dad cried when he realized she was right. As for me, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting for them either. My life had become much bigger. I moved into a brighter apartment in the city with huge windows. The mornings there felt like a new start instead of a struggle. My desk only had the things that mattered: my computer, a cup, and a plant Maya bought me. She said every new chapter needs something that is growing. We spent our Sundays walking through different neighborhoods and getting coffee. We talked about the future without comparing it to anyone else's needs. She never asked me to be less than I am. I never expected her to save me. We were just two people building something together. On quiet nights, I would cook while she read on the sofa. Sometimes she would look at me and say, "You look lighter." She was right. My shoulders weren't hunched and my hands weren't tight. Silence didn't feel like a punishment. It felt like air. The bank statements from my sister were tucked away in a drawer. They were just records now, not emotions. They were proof that things could be fair. Before we finished our last session, Dr. Holloway told me, "This family is learning to walk differently, and you were the one who changed the ground." Driving home that night, the streetlights stretched across the road. My apartment was waiting for me, and it was quiet and warm. It was mine. For the first time, nothing felt like it was borrowed. I put my keys on the table. They didn't look like the shiny keys my sister got in the driveway years ago. These keys were quiet, earned, and chosen. I opened the window just enough to feel the cool night air. Maya was in the kitchen, humming a song that didn't ask anything of me. Families don't always change because they want to. Sometimes they change because someone finally stops carrying the weight for them. I believed them when they said I was always last. That was the moment I stopped standing in line.